when you understand that 25% of America's workforce is directly or indirectly impacted by the food and ag industry, that it represents a significant percentage of our GDP, that educational achievement is somewhat dependent on youngsters having healthy and nutritious food as they begin their school year and school day, and the fact that it is a noted effort in reducing poverty, food and nutrition security becomes an important issue. And certainly we've seen the impact of that during the course of the pandemic. When the American Rescue Plan was enacted, hunger in the United States was at 14% of our population, which was an incredibly high number. Today, as a result of the investments under the American Rescue Plan, we now know that hunger has dipped to 8% of America's population. That's a remarkable drop in a 6-month period. It is a result of extending SNAP, as we did in the American Rescue Plan, creating a summer EBT program that will institute opportunities for nearly 30 million children to have access to nutrition during the summer months, increasing our commitment to WIC, and basically making a down payment, if you will, on hunger reduction. We have the opportunity over the course of the next several months, as Congress considers the American Job Plan and the American Family Plan, to cement those results and to actually build upon them. There are 3 key investments for nutrition and food security in the American Families Plan. First, we're going to make permanent this incredible and historic effort to feed kids during the summer months. There are, as I said, nearly 30 million American children who are in free and reduced lunch status in schools. At the end of the school year, there is no program other than a summer feeding program, which impacted and affected several million of those 30 million children. Now we have the opportunity to provide each one of these families with a card that looks like this. This is the summer EBT card that's available. It allows parents the opportunity to go to the grocery store as they do with their SNAP card and be able to purchase additional fruits and vegetables and other wholesome food for their children, ensuring that 30 million kids will have the opportunity to have nutrition during the summer, which means that they'll be better prepared to begin school ready to learn in the fall. We're also extending with this effort the opportunity to impact free school meals in high poverty school areas by focusing on the community eligibility program that essentially identifies the ability of a school district where SNAP participation is roughly 40% to extend free meals to everyone in that school. This is going to expand opportunities for youngsters to be well fed, and we know from a recent Tough study that one of the healthiest places in the country for children to eat is now in America's schools. So we're going to see that extended, and we're going to focus with a specific laser-like focus on elementary schools to make sure that our youngest learners have the best possible opportunity. And finally, we're going to invest $1 billion with Congress's help and assistance in trying to figure out strategies that will improve even more than we already have the nutritional value and quality of the meals that youngsters receive in schools. So these 3 steps, these 3 key investments on the American Families Plan will allow us to cement the gains under the American Rescue Plan and hopefully impact and reduce hunger to the point eventually one day where we won't have to have a press conference about hunger. So with that, I'd be happy to take questions.
Great. Andrew, you want to take us off?
Yeah, Secretary Vilsack, a couple questions. One about the mines that you, the mine project that you had previously blocked, and then the Trump administration allowed those to open up. Do you have any particular view on whether that should be reopened or not? This is the twin metal copper mine.
There's always a very difficult balance to strike in any of these questions. And certainly in this particular one, you're balancing a pristine, incredibly important and valuable natural site, the boundary waters of the Mississippi, tremendously unique area. It's one that the late Walter Mondale felt very strongly about, and I know that from a personal experience with the former vice president. He called me repeatedly on this issue. So you've got that on one hand. On the other hand, you obviously have jobs and economic opportunity. And I think the challenge is to try to see if you can strike a balance. And that's what we attempted to do in the previous administration, and I don't see any reason why we should change that calculation. Trying to find the balance between preserving a pristine area and at the same time looking for ways in which job growth, economic growth can take place in rural areas. And that's what we're going to attempt to do. There are no final decisions being made on this. This is obviously something we also have to do in conjunction with the Department of Interior. They have a stake in this issue as well.
Susan,
Alex, I just want to get to a bunch of people in here one at a time, so go ahead, Alex.
Sure. One way of increasing SNAP benefits is by reforming the Thrifty Food Plan. And I know that that is under review right now. Can you talk a little bit about what that review entails and when we should expect results and how the reforms would be implemented if the program is approved?
It's a complicated question and one that hasn't been reviewed in detail for quite some time. And we expect and anticipate during the course of the summer months that we will complete our review and then have an opportunity perhaps to have a conversation about this in the fall. And this will be appropriately timed because, as you know, the American Rescue Plan called for an extension of the increase in SNAP over the course of the summer months until the end of September. So it's timely for us to look at this. I'd simply say that the principles that we're operating under in this area are, number one, the benefit has to be meaningful to American families. With the American Rescue Plan, we saw an additional $100 a month for a family of four being added to the groceries, to their grocery purchases. It also impacts jobs, as I said before. That SNAP benefit increased and supported tens of thousands of jobs in grocery stores and across the food chain. It also has to be conveniently available. It's one of the reasons why, again, the American Rescue Plan has provided opportunities for us to look at online purchasing, make it more convenient. It has to be operated with integrity, obviously. And it has to be, we have to look for ways in which we can incent and encourage those dollars to be used in the best way possible to provide the most nutritious benefit to American families. And that's the goal. And that's what we'll look at when we look at the Thrifty Food Plan.
Alex?
Secretary, a group of Midwestern farmers last week sued over the COVID loan forgiveness program, arguing that it's unfair to them because they're white. Your reaction to that lawsuit, and do you stand by the program's structure?
It's a great question. I appreciate it. I think I have to take you back 20, 30 years when we know for a fact that socially disadvantaged producers were discriminated against by the United States Department of Agriculture. We know this. We have reimbursed people in the past for those acts of discrimination, but we've never absolutely dealt with the cumulative effect. And by cumulative effect, I mean this. When I have the full advantage of all the USDA programs throughout the last 30 years, my operation could grow. I could invest in more land. I could get the latest and best technology. I could plant my crop at just the right time. I could make more money. If I had limited access or no access to USDA programs, obviously my operation significantly limited. So the American Rescue Plan's effort is to begin addressing the cumulative effect of that discrimination in terms of socially disadvantaged producers. Secondly, when you look at the COVID relief packages that had been passed and distributed by USDA prior to the American Rescue Plan, and you take a look at who disproportionately received the benefits of those COVID payments, it's pretty clear that white farmers did pretty well under that program because of the way it was structured. It's structured on size and structured on production. So I think there is a very legitimate reason for doing what we are doing. I think it has to be complemented with additional steps, which the American Rescue Plan provides, an equity commission to take a look at whether or not there are systemic barriers that need to be removed at the department, and also taking a look at how we might be able to create better technical assistance, better access to land, better access to markets for socially disadvantaged producers and for local and regional food production. So we're going to continue to proceed forward. Understand that litigation is going to be what it is, and we'll obviously have the Department of Justice and others do what they do. But in the meantime, the U.S. Department of Agriculture is going to move forward with that effort.
Thank you, Secretary Vilsack. You've just outlined the plans for the ARP funds through the fall to deal with some of the issues around hunger. How long do you anticipate those funds will last, particularly given that next year's school year will be unique, coming off of a year where most schools have been closed for the better part of a year? And will you need more funds from Congress to address this?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why the President proposed the American Families Plan as a continuation and as allowing us to basically cement and make more permanent the gains that we've seen from the American Rescue Plan. In the meantime, we have worked with schools. understanding they're faced with a lot of uncertainty about the upcoming school year. And so we have already decided that we have available resources to be able to provide for universal free lunch for schools throughout the 21-22 school year. And that will extend, I think, until the end of June 2022. With the passage of the American Families Plan, we would then have the summer EBT program to provide additional support and help. And that would give us, I think, enough lead time for school districts to be able to adjust back to what the new normal will be. In the meantime, we'll be looking at hopefully the use of the pilot under the American Families Plan to see if there are ways in which we can incent additional nutritional value for those meals, and we'll be using, hopefully with the passage of the American Families Plan, a more targeted effort in high poverty schools, elementary schools, to expand universal free meals.
Caitlin, the last one.
On this idea of a carbon bank, since you've been on the job, what is the feedback that you've gotten from farmers, and is this something that you think needs congressional approval?
You know, I was at a meeting yesterday with the Environmental Protection Agency Administrator, Michael Regan. He did a terrific job. We had probably 25 farmers. I was very pleased with the level of support and interest that the farm community has for ways in which they can be engaged in this effort to reduce emissions and to be engaged in this climate effort. We had multiple questions about this in terms of how can we do this? Not we're against it or we are opposed to it or we don't think it should happen. It was, how can we do this? How can we be part of this? Because farmers understand something very, very fundamental about this. This is the opportunity of a lifetime for us to create additional revenue opportunities for farmers. Now, why is that important? Because today, 89.6% of American farms, the majority of income does not come from the farm for those farm families. That means they have to have an off-farm income. So it's the Department of Agriculture's job to find more, better, and new markets. Climate provides that opportunity. Whether it's a fund, or whether it's conservation resources, whether it's investments in technology that will allow them to capture methane and reuse it, or whether it's creating new opportunities for bioprocessing and new jobs in rural places, all of that has to be done. And I think the USDA has enormous capacity and enormous set of tools that can be used to provide the resources to work with the farm community to embrace this future. And I think they are in agreement with President Biden when he says the net goal here is net zero emissions by 2050. I think that's doable. And I think in doing it, I think we'll improve income opportunities for farmers. We'll certainly do right by the environment. And I think we'll also have healthier and better soil and cleaner water.
Would it need congressional approval, a carbon bank?
Well, it needs congressional approval in the sense that you have resources in all of these programs that require funding. We have a lot of flexibility already at USDA, and we're going to be utilizing that flexibility in a way that creates more new and better markets. And I think farmers are going to find that to be they're going to be very agreeable with that.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Secretary Vilsack.
Thank you,
And as always, if you all have follow-up questions, we are happy to connect you with his team following the briefing. Thank you, and we'll love to have you back.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.